Hello and welcome to a new edition of .leap. This time we'll be talking about project conviction as our introduction. So recently our friendly neighborhood whale Giotto presented another idea, optimistic project funding. The idea is very similar to creator staking on Polkadot, dApps staking on Astar, which you can see in our last dogfooding video for how that works on our YouTube channel, or even similar to Optimism's retroactive public goods funding. So the way it works is projects would apply to be whitelisted in Polkadot's new palette, where DOT holders would vote them in. DOT holders would then vote for their favorite projects among the whitelisted ones, and the projects would get a proportional share of an earmarked amount of DOT inflation distributed to them based on the votes they have per day or some other unit of time. DOT holders can then also vote to not fund projects to discourage or eliminate projects that they feel are grifty, malicious, or otherwise undesirable. These holders can vote with conviction just like in regular governance, and these locks overlap, which means that if Bob votes with 5 conviction for Alice's wallet but 6 conviction on referendum 666, this will still carry a 6x lock, not an 11x lock. Not summing them both, but taking the longer one. DOT holders can also vote to remove a project from the whitelist and thus from the eligibility to actually receive any rewards at all. So first and foremost, I must suggest a different name. This screams to me again, let's try and catch up to Ethereum land, even when naming things. So I propose renaming the effort to Project Conviction because it signals how convinced you are that a project is good, how much conviction you have in a given project, and I think it sounds much cooler. So I will refer to it as such going forward. On its surface, Project Conviction is a pretty cool mechanism, especially as the era of parachains draws to a close and projects will need a different kind of funding. The not fund vote also seems very useful to discourage straight-up grifting. There are, however, 2 possible problems I see occurring, but not directly addressed in this proposal. The first one is the submission process. The submission process for the whitelist needs to be thought up really well. It cannot be a simple majority acceptance because a whale could easily vote 1 million of his projects in and then vote for them to get the money with more dots than anyone else put together, and all we've done is redirected the inflation into a private wallet. The process cannot be democratic because people are largely uninterested in voting, and cannot be plutocratic for the reason I mentioned before. It also cannot be oligarchic like with the technical fellowship because it turns the TF into the gatekeeper of yet another aspect of Polkadot, which I don't think anybody really wants. I do not have a solution other than decaying categorical meritocracy, which I've linked a post to in the newsletter, but this is a can of worms that not many are willing to open, so I'm not going to dive in deep there. At the very least, there need to be deposit locks, deposit burns, curved voting like it was in Governance 1 based on turnout, so it's biased to fail by default and it approaches a simple majority as turnout approaches 100%, along with some other fail-safes. The other problem is the race to the bottom. Like in Astar's dApps staking, for which I am still not clear how it avoids this problem, and please do message me or comment on the newsletter if you know, projects will likely promise kickbacks to those who vote for them. As they all compete with each other for greater relative claim to the inflation bucket, they will inevitably offer bribes to get votes. The voters will then vote for money and not utility or project desirability, so in almost no time at all we should be seeing projects keeping something like 1% of their project conviction income and giving out 99% to the stakers. Some will undoubtedly further spice up the deal with native tokens, NFT drops, meme coins, and more. The purpose of the program will self-defeat by preventing the project from actually making any meaningful amounts of money. Granted, I may be taking it to a cynical view and maybe the people will vote with love and care rather than wallets, but if there's no failsafe built in, we have to assume failure. As the saying goes, optimists are usually successful, but pessimists are usually right. I want to be an optimist here, but, things speak otherwise in what we've seen so far in Web3. What do you think about this? How can we avoid this? Is this a good idea, or is there another way to incentivize projects to remain involved with the Polkadot ecosystem? Discuss by dropping a comment on the video or on the written version of the newsletter or on Twitter or wherever else you want. Now, let's get on to the updates. Polkadot 1.8 has been released. following 1.71, 1.72 with some bug fixes, but 1.8 subsequently introduced major and breaking changes which you should inspect in the release log. Most were mentioned in previous .leap editions. A postmortem was published on Kusama's finality stall, and permissionless withdrawing is coming as a default option. This means anyone can trigger a withdrawal of staked amounts, staked rewards, which seems practical but might have some taxable event implications for those who care about the boomer world of taxes. Beefy is live on Kusama. StakeNode's Jimmy has written a great explainer on X, linked in the written version. Beefy is actually a secondary protocol which allows efficient, trustless bridging to external consensus systems like other blockchains. The Square One program has merged with Polkadot Alpha, supercharging it into a new project support program, which is very good. If you're building on Polkadot, you should check that program out. Link in the newsletter. On the development side, from the core side of things, Polkadot.js suite is now under new ownership. The one-person bus factor by Yako has been removed and development can now become more centralized. Yako was indeed a powerhouse and he built everything we're using, but it's time he took a well-deserved rest. OpenDev Core Call is on YouTube if you want to hear straight from the technical fellowship. Bill LeBrun links it in his tweet. And it is now possible to enable and disable batch requests on Polkadot Node's RPC server. Inc examples in the code in the docs have been updated to use Inc v5, and Substrate Contract Node version 0.380 is out without any breaking changes. The Substrate Contract Node tool is used for building contracts locally. It's like a toolkit for writing Rust contracts. Palette contracts will now expose an API version to let devs know which APIs are available, and the various options a builder in the Polkadot ecosystem has been written up as a post by Kian Paimani. This is a great post if you're getting started as a builder in this ecosystem. We've gotten some more documentation in the code for Frame off-chain workers, so check that out if you're working with off-chain processing. And there's a new claim assets extrinsic that has been added, which allows for simple claiming of stuck assets from failed XCM transfers. A bug has been fixed which makes parachain nodes that use the sync warp flag no longer crash. And soon, nomination poolers will also be able to participate in governance. Right now they can't, but soon their votes will also be able to be cast. A page about gas has also been added to the Inc docs, so check that out for gas metering. And contract deployment on chains can now be origin limited, which means that the contracts palette has gotten some origin permissioning. That in turn means that you can define in the runtime who is allowed to deploy contracts on a given chain. This sounds kind of interesting because it would theoretically allow the technical fellowship to let themselves issue contracts on the Polkadot relay chain, which means we could get a smart relay chain, but the contracts would be highly audited and really optimized and only approved by the technical fellowship. This is a way to make Polkadot finally programmable, so I think this option should be explored. In terms of governance, the Decentralized Voices first cohorts has been published by the Web3 Foundation, and to fight it, Giotto has seemingly organized a cartel that he calls Koala DAO. How this battle will unfold is yet to be seen. The Decentralized Futures program has funded Alice und Bob's OpenGov Watch. OpenGov Watch is meant to analyze the governance process, identify pain points, write guides, and more, making the governance process infinitely smoother and more transparent. You can now dive deep into each referendum's stats on Polkassembly with the new amazing graphs they just added. Polkassembly now also allows you to cancel, kill, and create referenda right from their UI. No more need to use the Polkadot.js UI. Starlay Finance has attempted a weird hack-saving referendum in a clumsy way. As a reminder, they were hacked a few weeks ago and lost a lot of capital. But it seems like the team is kind of unfamiliar with how Polkadot really works, because they were unaware of what kind of deposits they will need to put down if they want this referendum to be voted on. Referendum 552 aims to integrate Polkadot's ecosystem into a token terminal for a whopping 171,000 DOT, 1.7 million USD at time of writing or recording this, which is kind of wild for a data integration, but if it helps the wider ecosystems recognize Polkadot's data and traffic and everything, so be it. And Paseo Network's funding referendum has passed, so we have a new funded tested. For dog food of the day, we have Hydra DX. Check that out on our YouTube channel, where I stumbled through the swapping, liquidity adding, and other functionality of Hydra DX and discover some really cool features along the way. Speaking of Hydra DX swaps have been added to the Nova wallet, which is pretty cool because you can now swap on mobile. Now, if only people would add more assets, that would be super cool. There is a local air pollution network of sensors live in Limassol, Cyprus, powered by the Robonomics Kusama parachain, which is a pretty cool use case we have not heard of so far. Mimir is a new multisig app for substrate chains that recently came on the scene. It supports Subsquare and other so far multisig inaccessible interfaces, and it supports chains like Kusama, Polkadot, Asset Hub, Paseo, and others are on the way. I am slightly worried about the centralization factor. It is not open source. It is open source, but it's not really clear how to run a local copy. It also seems to have a server element, which means that if this is a custom version of a multisig and not the built-in on-chain one, then there might be trouble if and when they disappear. So we'll see if we can maybe put up a tutorial on how to run your own Mimir instance. Subwallet's EVM integration has been released on PolkAssembly, which means you can now use your Subwallet EVM accounts to vote on Moonbeam and similar EVM-capable Polkadot chains, and omni-chain liquid staking is available via Bifrost and Layer 0, which means cross-chain liquid staking. Crust Network has published a post which explains that it works with over 150 projects already, providing them with resilient always-up storage. Big fan of Crust and what they're doing. Hydra DX has also introduced Holar, a new stablecoin for the Polkadot ecosystem and beyond. I still need to inspect how the collateralization there works and how the peg is maintained. More on that in the next edition. Impulse DAO's Arena is a game for developers. You can launch your character from a template or fully customize it by writing a custom playing algorithm and uploading it into your character. Super cool. And a very nice onboarding exercise for builders in this ecosystem. The Oak Network Automation Hub now enables users to schedule cross-chain bridging of assets across Turing Network, Moonriver, and Shiden. Content staking and reward splitting are two more ways to make bank on Polkaverse. And for some good old reading, we have an explanation of Lit Entry's identity model. Integrity talked about asset tokenization or real-world assets. Sora has published their roadmap, progress, updates, and more. And Everloot is teasing us with real-time dungeon crawling with on-chain assets. Looks really wild. Unique Network also published a post in which they encourage people to build on their Substrate replica of a part of Remark's original functionality for equipable, customizable NFTs. If you want to launch dynamic NFTs on Substrate, this is how you do it. From the community and ecosystem side, Nasdaq has written about Polkadot, Starknet's claim is live, and Polkadot-related repo contributors from GitHub can qualify for an airdrop, which is not insignificant in size. StakeNote has again offered some excellent breakdowns of core time, block space, and agile core time concepts with regards to the West End deployment. Invarch is teasing the community with a Varch airdrop for all DOT stakers, and Astar Degen's DAO treasury holds DOT as well as Astar and plans to distribute the DED they receive to their NFT holders. 0x Goku's incredible write-up about on-chain governance is worth your attention, a highly recommended read, link in the written version of the newsletter, and there's also a video interview of why Avail chose to build on Polkadot. StakeNote introduced another phenomenal explainer on Polkadot 2.0, and we also have a video of Gavin Wood's ETH to DOT journey, a full history of that whole trip that he took. And I've also recently learned that there's an awesome set of dashboards about the ecosystem by Parity, tracking stablecoins and staking and ecosystem and much more. If you're of the Let's Hang Out crowd, Web3 Summit is coming to Berlin in August, so check that out as well. On the tools and releases side, the Chopsticks tool, which is an amazing tool for cloning a live chain from the state that it's in right then and there, and continuing, but with a local copy, This feature has now been added to the Polkadot JS UI, which means that if you're a developer, you can just click on a live chain and just live clone it then and there, keep running a local copy and run your simulations on that. Super awesome. Very nice. Substrate Connect, the Lite client, got a dApp extension, like a tutorial on how to use it, how to use this Lite client with an extension. Cargo Contract Release Candidate 3 is out, Stable 1 coming soon. TX Wrapper 7.2.1 is out, which just updates the dependencies. Inks Release Candidate 2 is out, version 5, stable also coming soon. Substrate API Sidecar 17.5.2 has been released with some dependency bumps, nothing special. And I've also learned about Paraspell, a set of tools for XCM communication. It is really an amazing repo, an amazing start. Oh yeah, and Asset Transfer API 0.1.8 is out, an API for transferring assets. So that's it for this edition of dotLeap. I encourage you to really read the written version of the newsletter, click on some of the links, it really helps us, and also you'll learn a lot of new interesting things. Check out our dog fooding session about HydraDX. I'm really excited about that product now actually, and I'm going to keep exploring it a little more. And please let me know how you feel about project conviction, how you feel projects should be incentivized by the ecosystem itself to stick around, build in it, and not just, pick up and leave for the next bribe from the next ecosystem. Thank you all for your attention, and I'll see you guys in the next one.